Hi, Alan here, RVAcrossAmerica.net, coming to you from inside the comfort and warmth of my camper. And I'm still in southwestern Montana, and boy, have I got a lot to share with you today. It's been a couple of weeks. I try to get these posts out weekly, but there's just so much going on during the spring and summer. I'm out biking every day, I'm out swimming every day, I do a little bit of hiking, I do some kayaking. So there's a lot to do outside, and for me, staying active and being healthy is probably the number one priority while I'm up here. I've got a very heavy topic for you today. The topic is using your RV as a bug out vehicle. And if you don't have an RV, of course, you could obtain an RV, and should it be used as a bug out vehicle? And my proposition in this post is yes, it should be used as a bug out vehicle. The post itself is going to be at rvacrossamerica.net/RV bug out. All right, RV bug out. So, before I get into it, I just want to share a couple of things going on around here. The weather is weird. It was 55 degrees when I came inside at about 9:30 this morning. It's windy. You might hear the wind howling. I've got the window open, and it's blowing like it's early March, but yet it's July 2nd. The temperature today is not likely to reach 70 degrees. And the next few days, right through the 4th, are going to stay in the 60s to at best the low 70s. And when we do warm up, we're going to have about 5 days up around 88 to 90 degrees, and that might be it for summer. It may cool off after that. So this is turning out to be a very interesting late spring, early summer. It only stopped snowing here about 10 days ago. It's really incredible. I also have been very engaged in the last 24 hours with buying Ethereum. I'm trying to obtain one Ethereum, which is around $3,400 as I make this video. If you want me, by the way, to get more into economic issues and what I'm doing with my funds to preserve them and potentially grow them, not offering financial advice, just sharing what I do, leave a comment below and let me know if that's something you'd like me to make a video or two about. I do have some other videos coming up. I'm going to get back behind the webcam and drive and show you parts of Montana. One area I've just recently headed to was a ghost town called Garnet, and I took a stagecoach trail up to Garnet. That is a road that has probably not been improved since about 1900. And that in itself was pretty interesting. And the town of Garnet was pretty interesting. And then I had an opportunity to sit down with one of the rangers there and get the inside scoop. And that's what I'm going to share with you in my post about Garnet. Garnet is not far from Missoula. I also am planning some additional travel. I'm going to be up here for another couple of months. And I'd welcome hearing from you. Leave comments in the post, leave comments under the video or under my post, where you can let me know if you'd like me to go someplace particular and shoot some video getting there and what the place is all about. So I have a couple other places in mind, maybe another ghost town, and I always like ghost towns, and along with the history of Butte. I know I've had one or two posts about Butte. Well, I'm about to go back there and do what they call the underground tour, which really gets, from what I understand, very, very interesting. But while I'm up here in Montana, I want to take advantage of that. So let's get into talking about using your RV as a bug out vehicle. And forgive me as I refer to my notes. A lot of this is on the post at rvacrossamerica.net/RV bug out. There may be a few nuggets that work their way in as I verbalize various issues here. And I may leave some stuff over to you to go to the post for so you get the full background because I always believe I can share more in writing and I have more time to reflect on it than when I'm making a video. I often make videos without doing editing, other than to add on the website address so you can easily get over to the post. And I may neglect to mention something that's in the written post. So they kind of complement each other. They don't duplicate each other, that's for sure. So, what is it about an RV that makes me say, well, it could be a viable bug out vehicle? Well, first of all, let's stipulate it's not a secure structure. In fact, heck, many of them are not even made all that well. By the way, I'm going to be hammering a couple of companies soon. Alliance, which is one of my recent posts. I've got more information about more disasters that have occurred with Alliance, construction techniques that just shouldn't happen. And I ran into a fellow last night who was trying to get a 44-foot Cedar Creek fifth wheel into a spot here. And this is a private RV park. This is where these kind of mammoth beasts should easily fit. And he was having a devil of a time getting into his site at 44 feet. I'm not surprised. But I asked him, I said, well, how's your Cedar Creek working out? It's a Forest River thing, by the way, which, if you know what I think about Forest River, enough said. He said, well, I got it in 2020 and I just got it back in 2023 after it spent 3 years in for service. Well, that's not a good start. That's not a good start. And we talked about some of the issues, and they all come down to construction and the quality of construction, how much people care when they're building the thing. Because a lot of these things are built by people who just don't care, and then supervisors who just don't do any quality control. And I've got a whole post about quality control at rvacrossamerica.net. So take a look. Anyway, RV is a bug out vehicle. There are several main sections in my written post, and I'm going to run through them right here and give you a little bit of the skinny and maybe even, like I say, a couple of nuggets that might not be in the written post. Let's talk about water. Your RV is a potentially a reserve of fresh water for you and your family. And I say that because my fifth wheel here has an 80-gallon freshwater tank. That's a fair amount of reserve. And it's not hard to keep that water potable or nearly potable. I do use a water filtration system inside my camper. I talk about that in the post. And I do have a couple of backup filters that will not only filter the water from the gravity tank, but I could pull it right out of a river or frankly out of a pond or a lake or a puddle and filter that water and have potable water for myself, and if I was traveling with others, for myself and others. No question about it. So your RV can serve as a source of water for you. Food storage. During the Great Texas Freeze Out, I was down there in early 2021 and late 2020 during the scamdemic, and yes, that's what I see it as being. Um, I was there and we had this cold wave hit in January and we lost power for 5.5 days. It was unprecedented cold. I wrote a post about it over at rvcrossamerica.net and talked about how I went cross country skiing and I got up one morning, it was 0 degrees and we had 5 inches of fresh powder in south central Texas. Um, Campground owner had never seen anybody on cross country skis in his RV park, and it was a trip. Anyway, during the power outage, I kept my food, and I kept my food just fine. Why? Because I had a gas absorption refrigerator. Gas absorption refrigerators are those ones for RVs that are called propane slash electric, and that means they run off shore power, 120 volt AC, or they run off propane. And I ran it off propane. I did have to go out and fill propane once that week, but I think I had one of my two tanks was pretty low to begin with, and I didn't have any backup tanks. I do recommend on my post that you now travel with backup tanks, 30-pound tanks, 20-pound tanks, whatever you can carry. That'll help. But gas absorption refrigerator kept me running and kept my food appropriately cold and safe in the refrigerator section, in the freezer section. They have now in newer campers installed 12-volt compressor units. Those 12-volt units will also run off power sources that you can easily generate power for your RV. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I also carry in my camper freeze-dried food. I would be careful of the quality of that freeze-dried food. Some freeze-dried food is good, some is not so good. Canned food, but be careful of canned food because it doesn't last forever and it takes up a fair amount, it creates a fair amount of weight. And you might even want to look into growing food in your camper. I'm going to have a post very soon about my aero gardens that I have in here that now are supplementing my salads. You can see one potentially over my shoulder, but I'm kind of blocking it and it's under a light right now. You may or may not be able to see it, but aero gardens are really kind of a pretty cool thing. So when the power goes out and when the grid goes down, and let's preface this way. Why am I talking about using your RV as a bug out vehicle? I'm 65 years old. I've seen things in the last 5 years that I never thought I would see. And, from my available recollection, which starts at maybe about age 5, believe it or not, my first memory is Kennedy being shot. I was in a stop and shop, and some lady ran up to me and my mother and said, the president's just been shot. And I didn't even process it at age 5. Remember going home and looking at Kennedy's photo in the newspaper and then Johnson's photo, and I'm like, that old man is replacing him? That's a shame. But anyway, um, you know, there are things going on in this country and in the world that if we had written a book 5 years ago predicting all of these things that are happening, people would have said, nah, no way, that can't happen. So I believe that there are things that may happen and probably will happen over the next 2 years that none of us can accurately predict, and none of us are going to believe. It would believe if we wrote about them right now. Well, maybe now we believe them, but bottom line, you need to be prepared. And I think having your RV ready as a bug out vehicle is a good idea. And if you don't have an RV and you're starting to think it might be a good idea to have an RV, stay tuned. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Anyway, um, solar panels. I use 200-watt portable solar panels. I have recommendations in the written post, and my recommendations have not changed. Renogy has recently upgraded some panels to 400 watts, but they don't come with a solar controller, and they don't appear to be as heavy duty as the panels I've got. So I think mine are going to survive, hypothetically, Armageddon. Also, power inverters. I do recommend a new one in the post. I've got myself about 1,000 or 1,500 watt inverter, and I'm now recommending a 2,000 watt inverter because the pricing has come in line, and it's made by Renogy, and Renogy does a very good job making these kind of devices. The next section that's in the written post talks about store of wealth. And of course, I'm referring to money. And when I refer to money, I'm not referring to the greenback. If you had US dollars socked away 20, 30 years ago, and you suddenly discovered them underneath your mattress or something, and let's say you had $200, do they buy today what they bought 20, 30 years ago? And the clear answer is no. And, money, one of the key aspects of money is it's a store of wealth. So in my written post, I get into something called a goldback, and I give you a link to take a look at that. I get into a little bit about silver, but I'm simply going to say about silver, reach out to me. And if you want to know what I've bought, I've done a lot of research on it, and I've researched how to store it properly and securely. Reach out to me and we can talk about that and talk about forms of silver that I buy and I invest in because I firmly believe that those are stores of wealth in contrast to these green things that we put in our wallet that simply lose value literally every day. Another section is called Where to Go. Now, I do give you in the written post a link to a tool that I use and will use extensively, and it can be used offline that will show you public lands that you can get to and other places that are remote. Because being remote, to me, is a guiding principle of where you want to be when you get into an SHTF situation. In other words, when it's time to bug out. Acknowledging that most people live in suburban or urban areas and that means you're around a lot of other people. And I don't think that's a great place to be, especially knowing that a lot of those people are not preparing. And I think at this point, it is not a fringe, uh, really out of the realm idea to say, you know what, maybe we need to think about what we need to have on hand should we be in a situation where the power goes out and where the banks aren't open and the stores aren't open. And we really need to have stuff on hand so we can survive for a few weeks, a few months, or maybe even a couple of years. So I give you a very helpful tool in the written post, and I'll leave it at that. I'll let you go over there and take a look at it. I'm also going to leave vague the topic of protection. The topic of protection is an important topic, and I hit on a couple of different aspects of that, but that also includes where you choose to locate yourself. I'll say this much as a couple of insights and a couple of nuggets. When you talk about, well, if we're going to take the camper to go somewhere, where are we going to go? And, one of the things I'd be thinking about is I don't want to be around too many trees because I want to be in an area where sunlight can easily hit my solar panels, where I can charge up my solar panels because that's what's going to keep my food cold and that's going to keep what's going to keep the lights on and the other aspects of my camper running so that life is relatively normal. And I don't want to be in a place that gets too obnoxiously hot and humid, having been an East Coaster for part of my life. And also a place that does not get ridiculously cold. I mean, I spent last winter in Anaconda. We had a mild winter and we still got to minus 42 mornings in a row. And that's not a real good situation for people if you're living where the power is not functioning. And it did work when we had power, when we had the super cold last winter. But again, I don't take electric power, the electric grid, as a given in this country. It's been a given for the last 50, 60, 70 years, but I don't accept it as a given. Let me close with this. My written post is at rvacrossamerica.net/RV bugout. RV bugout, like as in recreational vehicle. Anyway, and if you do need a camper or if you want to update your camper, by all means, feel free to reach out to me if you want a guide by your side and somebody who's going to have your back. I will tell you right now, and I'm going to make a post to this effect soon, there is no better time to buy a camper than right now. The economy is flat on its back. The RV market, and for that matter, the vehicle market is flat on its back. And there are deals to be had. I'm making deals with clients right now and, waiting to see what happens with one I've got in process right now with the dealer and see where things go. So reach out to me. I've got my contact information at rvcrossamerica.net/. RV bug out. And this is all about using your RV as a bug out vehicle. I'm Alan. It's early July. I'm going to put my sweatshirt on and go outside. Like I say, I don't think it's really t-shirt weather. And I just got back from doing my morning swim and water routine. And later today, I'll be swimming again. And if the wind lets up and it stops blowing at 30 miles an hour, maybe I'll go for a bike ride. Anyway, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening when you're seeing this. You take care of yourself. Be good.